Good evening, everyone. This is John Girardi, the Executive Director at Right to Life of Central California, here for our Stories of Life event. Here at Right to Life of Central California, our mission statement is that Right to Life's work is centered around engaging our community by presenting the pro-life message in a captivating fashion, to equip our community to spread that message themselves, but also to embrace those members of our community who are either struggling with an unexpected pregnancy or those who have gone through the pain of abortion. This event tonight that we're presenting to you through Facebook Live, and we thank you so much for joining us, is about that third prong in our mission statement, to embrace those in need. In this presentation, we want to share with you a couple of stories about great things that great people in our valley are doing to help embrace those who are struggling with the abortion decision, to give them resources and the help they need to make the choice for life. We're also going to talk about the great work of Rachel's Vineyard, our post-abortion healing ministry, as well as highlighting some of the great things that people are doing with adoption, one of the most loving and beautiful options for giving and receiving life that there is. To get started, I want to introduce you to our new outreach center. Many of you have probably heard of this ministry, but it might not be familiar to all of you. At Right to Life of Central California, we made the decision about 1.5 years ago to start being the tenants for a building located right next door to Planned Parenthood. The idea for this came out of our 40 Days for Life campaign. During 40 Days for Life, we're out there for 40 days, praying and just having a presence outside of the Planned Parenthood clinic, trying to interact with people going in and out. Well, we had the idea, this building next door to Planned Parenthood was vacant, and we had the notion, why don't we be here more than 40 days per year? Why don't we be here on a regular, consistent basis throughout the year, have this building be our headquarters, and have Right to Life personnel be trained in sidewalk advocacy to talk with women and couples as they go in and out of Planned Parenthood. In the first of our little series of video presentations we're going to share with you, we're going to give you a look inside our Right to Life of Central California Outreach Center, which is located on Fulton Street, right next to the main Planned Parenthood clinic in Fresno. We hope you'll enjoy this first presentation of some of the great work that we are doing here at Right to Life of Central California.
Hey Linda, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, thanks.
That's good. Linda, we've been working together for a couple months, and it's been a blessing so far, but what brought you out to Right to Life? What brought you to this organization?
Well, originally I came out to have an opportunity to kind of pay it forward, just, do something worthwhile and participate in something that's close to my heart.
Awesome. And that you have done, and I've learned a lot from you during my time here. But when it gets tough, when sometimes we're out here and it's not as easy as we thought it would be, or we're not seeing an immediate difference, what keeps you going? What's the driving force, and what motivates you to keep on?
Well, one of the things that keeps me motivated is you and your jokes and your good attitude. And so, but on all seriousness, I know that everyone has a story, and I know that because I actually have a story. I have a story from, I guess most people would consider a long time ago. When I was young, I was 18, 19, I had a crisis pregnancy. I was in college, and I was just getting ready to accept a scholarship offer to go and run at college, and I had to make a decision, and I actually couldn't picture my life with a baby, and I ended up going to a pro-life organization, and I still couldn't visualize my life with a baby. And then I went in to talk to a counselor, and she said one thing, one short sentence, and that was, just when you think all the walls are closing in, God will shine a light.
Wow.
And right at that time, I thought, oh, sure. The things don't work that way.
Yeah.
And then a minute later, I stood up and I made a decision to have a baby who is now 35, married, has 2 kids, and I have 3 other daughters who are all more successful than I am. And so knowing that it took one sentence, that's what drives me. When I see someone going in, I think they might feel like I did, where they can't really picture themselves at all with a baby, but maybe God is going to give me the words that I need to say, that they need to hear, that gives them an opportunity to rethink. And, you know, when I first got the job, I was thinking all these ideas of what I was going to say, just in case. And then I realized that they weren't really going to be my ideas. They were going to be God's ideas.
Well, God wanted you to say.
Yes, through me as a vessel. And so even when things happen out here that are negative, I think I just have to have that, you know, it takes 1 second, you know, 1 sentence, that's it. And I've actually seen it happen several times over, where we've had conversations and they've been going in the wrong direction. And I take a minute and I think of the things that I might be able to say that would apply to their lives and let them think about it. And then they change their minds, and we keep in touch with them. So that's what keeps me motivated.
Wow. Well, I think it's amazing that you pray, and that you pray that God gives you the words to change their minds and to change their hearts. And I know it's hard out here, and we know how hard it is because we're out here in the thick daily, but it's motivating to see what drives you, to see you, and then to know now what's the driving force behind you. And hopefully this would help some of our volunteers, some of our donors know that that's something maybe they could do. That they, you know,
definitely.
That more of us are called to come out and to make a small difference. 1 sentence is all it took. A second is what it took for you to know.
Truly is. There's plenty of times when someone's coming out and I think, oh, they're not even going to listen to me. And then that's the person that turns around and I have a little bit of a chance. And it does work. It actually works. Worked for me. Look at me.
Yeah. Well, we're very blessed to have you, and hopefully we can continue to make a difference out here, to be in the right place at the right time with the right words, to make a difference in someone's life.
Well, I actually feel grateful to have the opportunity to do this. I mean, how many places in life do you have an opportunity to change a life and even save a life? And I don't feel like it's something that I'm doing just. It's a community of effort. It's an opportunity to do it. I mean, I have an opportunity to do this, and I have great guidance and great support and great people to work with.
Yeah. Well, I'm happy to be on your team, and we're happy that you're on our team, and hopefully we can continue to all make a difference.
Our sidewalk advocates, George Aguayo and Linda Talia, do phenomenal work outside of Planned Parenthood, thanks to the help and support of so many of you who've contributed to make our outreach center a reality. I'm even pleased to report that just yesterday, a woman had her mind changed. She was going in with the intention of having an abortion. She talked with our advocates, George and Linda, as well as some volunteers who came out. Thank you, Sarah. And she decided that she was going to keep her baby. And that's not the end of what we do. We also try to follow up with these women, help them with things like virtual baby showers and more. So it's not just a thing, the lie is often thrown at pro-lifers that you only care about fetuses, you don't care about babies after they're born. Nonsense. We try to do what we can to help mothers and to help their babies even further. One of those mothers whom we helped, thanks to the conversations she had with our employees, she decided to keep her baby, and she's one of the young women that we've helped support through virtual baby showers and more. And we would like to share that experience with all of you, just as an example of some of the great work that we're accomplishing here at Right to Life of Central California.
I'm Linda with Right to Life of Central California, and I'm going to do an interview with one of the women that my coworker and I had a chance to have an interaction with. And I want to take you on the journey that we've had from beginning to end. And in so doing, I am making a Zoom call, and we are going to talk about where it started and where things are now. And I think that most of you listening are going to be pleased to hear that what we're doing actually works and can keep working. So I'm just going to give a call to the person who now I call my friend and check in and have her give you a little bit of background and just talk about her experience. And I'm going to talk about my experience and try to pull it together and show you what has happened since then. So hi, I'm not going to give your name because I know that you want to remain anonymous, and I completely respect that. The situation that happened was difficult, and I don't want it to be any more difficult, and I totally appreciate you taking the time and being brave and willing to talk about this. So let's go back to the day that we met. My coworker and I had been talking, and we were discussing our approach and noticing that most of the girls and women we were talking to were just saying, I'm just going into Planned Parenthood for birth control. And we were thinking, well, with all the statistics the way they are, that can't be the truth. And so we started to try to get a little bit more assertive. And I remember seeing you coming out, and I could kind of tell by your face that you were frustrated and upset. And I just remember thinking, I'm gonna be bold, and I'm gonna ask her. So I remember just asking you, what's going on? Are you here for an abortion? And I remember you just saying bluntly, yeah, I've got 2 other kids under the age of 4. This is too much for me. I can't do this. And I remember feeling my heart just drop, because I'm a mother of 4 girls, and my coworker also is a mother, and we both just sort of looked at each other, remembering those days where it wouldn't matter if you were pregnant or not, but you were just thinking, I can't do this today. I can't do any more. So I can't even imagine finding out you're pregnant and not planning to be. And then here you are. And then here we are, basically in your face going, hey, how can we help you? And I remember just inviting you into the building. And so I was wondering if you could just talk about how you were feeling when we first approached, and then going into the building, and then.
It was a very emotional time for me. And I remember that I was an IUD. I was my youngest was 9 months old, and the other one was a year and a half. And I'm like, I out of nowhere I was pregnant, and I'm like, the next day I went over there. I'm like, I'm getting abortion for sure. I don't like. It's gonna be all gone. I'm just gonna walk in, walk out. It never happened. I remember when I was driving, I was like trying to convince myself that I'm just gonna go walk in there, get out, and it would be like it never happened, because it was, an accident, and it will never, come back to me or anything. And I was so emotional, so tired, and so in a shock, I think. And then I remember when I went there, there was a sign on the door. It says, come back in 10:30. I remember the time, it was 10. And then I'm like, okay, let me just, hang around. And I turned, I seen 2 beautiful women. It was you and Monica. And I'm like, what are they doing here? You had a flyer in your hands. I never had an experience with, Planned Parenthood. I never went to that place, or I didn't know what you do or who you are. And I'm like, let me talk to them for a little bit, so I don't think. I didn't want to, sit with myself. And yeah, so I'm like, let me just go talk with them a little bit till they open. And I remember your face when I told you, yeah, I'm here for abortion. You're like, can we talk a little bit? And I'm like, oh, why does she care? You know, why does it matter to her? And I'm like, okay, let's talk. And you told me, I see that you're not very sure about it. And I'm like, don't talk to me out of it, please. It's the last thing I want to hear. And then I'm like, let's just do it. And the thing, what you said to me, it was when you asked me, what are you scared of? You know, why do you want to get abortion? Why you're scared from having a baby? You know, what's gonna happen if you have the baby? My reasons were, I wanted to go back to school. I wanted to find a job, you know. And then I'm like, no, I still can do that with kids, you know. I know it's challenging, but I don't have the right to take someone's life for myself. I always remember that day, and I'm always glad that I met you at the right time. Every time I look at my baby now, I'm like, oh, Linda, I love you so much.
Yeah, I love you too. I mean, I'm lucky I met someone who was willing to be open to hear my crazy approach. And just, I think we're both lucky. I mean,
I am very lucky that I met you at that time. I can't imagine my life. How would it be if I did do that? The regret I regret that I went there. Can you imagine? Like, every time I look at my baby, I regret. I'm like, what was I thinking? I went to, you know, this beautiful baby, you know, what did he do to me? You know, so I go there to make me go there, you know. I don't know how it would be if I, you know.
You had to go there because that's how we met.
Yeah.
That's how we became friends. So I hope that this is the beginning of many interactions and opportunities for you to share your life. Because I know from having a similar experience that putting it out there is a step in the direction of a sort of healing. Because I know that feeling of, oh, I thought about it. And luckily, neither of us have to have the experience of abortion, but there's still that thought in the back of your mind where you're thinking, how could I have ever thought of it? And honestly, I feel like one of the best ways to address that is just to address it and talk to other people about it and let them know that what you first talked about, oh, I'm just going to go here and it's going to be all done, is not really true.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. It will never end there. If you walk into that facility and you get abortion, it will haunt you for the rest of your life. I believe that. It's like killing your baby. It's not. You see how killing other people is something like traumatic and something very bad. Imagine you kill your baby. You're not seeing the baby at that moment, but you are. It's a soul. It's someone. It's someone. It's not a thing, or it's not a mistake. It is someone, and it's your own baby. I think I believe that now, as from my experience, from what I lived and from what I live every day, seeing my baby growing up, his laughs, his cries, everything. It's like it was him since the first day I know I was pregnant. It was him. It wasn't someone else, and that's what hurts me the most.
And I so appreciate you being willing to stand up now. I don't think I could have done it so early, and that was the message that Monica and I were trying to give you, was that you're going to have these days anyway. It's not going to matter. And if you have one more baby, you're still going to have those days, but you're also going to have the other days, the days that you're talking about, the days of listening to your baby laugh and giggle and coo and stuff like that. So I think as women, we have to offer that to others. not this message of, yeah, the only way you can do this is have an abortion.
No, there is so many other ways. There's so many other options other than that. Don't, I'm against it 100%.
Anyway, I just want to close this up and say again that I so appreciate you being willing to come forward and talk. And most importantly, I want to let you know that I appreciate you for what you've given me. Just encouragement and support and appreciation. All of that is just as important. It makes me feel like what I'm doing is worthwhile. That if I keep standing out there, there's going to be someone else like me or like you. And I want to thank you.
I'm gonna cry. I really love you, Linda. I love you to the bottom of my heart. You're the godmother of my son, and I love you. I love how you never judged me for for me going there. How you talked to me, how you loved me. You just loved me, and you just supported me the best way I would ever needed.
Again, our tremendous thanks to this brave young woman for agreeing to share her story with us. And none of that is possible without our outreach center. Again, this is a building that we have established, which is located right next door to the Planned Parenthood Clinic, located on Fulton Street. Our address is 616 North Fulton Street. And if you are interested in participating in this venture, just today, we had a training program for different volunteers who are interested in joining us on the sidewalk and doing sidewalk advocacy. Planned Parenthood themselves has admitted in testimony before the California State Legislature that when pro-life protesters, activists, however they wanted to call them, are present outside of their clinics, their no-show rates for abortion visits skyrocket. It's something that they are very upset about. If they're upset about it, I'm happy about it. So if you want to join us, please do get in touch with us as an organization, either here through our Facebook page, through our website, or by just giving us a call at 559-229-2229. We now want to turn our gears a little bit, turn our attention from women deciding whether or not to have an abortion to those who may have already made the choice for abortion. And we wish to emphasize that there is healing and there is forgiveness after abortion, and that our organization has never been about condemnation. It has never been about shaming women who have had abortions, but always about reaching out to both men and women who have abortion in their past and showing them the love of God and the forgiveness that is available to them. One of the chief ways we do this is through our Rachel's Vineyard ministry. Rachel's Vineyard is a program of retreats, weekend-long retreats for women, couples, men who have had an abortion experience in their past. To help share some information about Rachel's Vineyard, I reached out to a very good friend, Jennifer Butcher. Some of you who are affiliated with Right to Life may know Jennifer. Jennifer helped establish the Rachel's Vineyard program here in the San Joaquin Valley. Even though she has moved to Lincoln, Nebraska, she still retains her Fresno ties and actually helps manage the confidential hotline for women calling to seek out post-abortion healing through our Rachel's Vineyard ministry. So here's an interview that I recorded with Jennifer Butcher via Zoom. She zoomed all the way from Nebraska to join us. Here's Jennifer Butcher explaining what our Rachel's Vineyard ministry is and what it does, how it is serving people right here in the San Joaquin Valley. Good evening, everyone. As part of our Stories for Life event, I'm joined via the miracle of Zoom by the person who helped found Fresno's Rachel's Vineyard ministry and worked with Right to Life of Central California, worked with the Roman Catholic Diocese of Fresno, local pro-life legend, Jennifer Butcher. So Jennifer, welcome to our broadcast, hailing all the way from Lincoln, Nebraska. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me. I don't know about a legend, but I'll take the compliment. Thank you.
All right. Well, so
to give people the context for your legendary status, in my eyes anyway, tell people a little bit about how you worked to establish the Rachel's Vineyard ministry in Fresno. Obviously, it's a national thing, but you need boots on the ground locally to get these things going. Actually, before that, maybe just describe to people, for those who don't know, some of our supporters may not know, what Rachel's Vineyard is and how it works to help people who have gone through the experience of abortion.
It's basically to help women, men, people who've been touched by abortion in any way, to come to terms with that, to find healing, to move forward in their life with something that they can't undo. And so the ministry, psychological, emotional, spiritual healing takes place throughout the weekend. And basically it's, been around since the 90s, and it's grown, and the format pretty much is the same. It's so effective that it really doesn't need much changing. And we started in Fresno back in, I think it was around 1999, 2000, when it first started kind of coming across our radar. I had been doing pro-life work at my parish, and my pastor at the time called me and Pat Lametti, who's our team counselor, into his office and said, "We need to get this Rachel's Vineyard thing going." And I had known about it because I had done Project Rachel work for the diocese, which is more one-on-one individual counseling for post-abortion healing. And so we said, okay, we could do this, Monsignor, but it can't be like at our parish. It's too big, and it needs to be too confidential to be like a parish-based ministry. And so I went and took two of my helpers who have been doing pro-life work with me at the parish, and we went down and experienced a weekend just to see what it was all about. And it was just incredible. It was just, there's hardly any words to describe what happens on a Rachel's Vineyard weekend. The dynamic is different every time. And we have an amazing team that helps make that happen. And so we brought it to the diocese and said, we want to do this. And at the time, because I had been doing volunteer work for the diocese, that's kind of just naturally where I went with it. It doesn't have to be a part of a diocese officially. But we went to them and said, we want to do this. What do you think? And so they said, sure, you can do it. I mean, you're not formally a ministry of the diocese, but we'll support you. And so that's kind of where we started from there. And I started to build my team. So
now you say that words can hardly describe sort of the effectiveness of it, but I'm going to be a jerk and ask you to use some words. So talk about what are some of the specific, in some cases, sort of ritual type things, or some of the specific processes that a participant in a Rachel's Vineyard retreat goes through in order to help bring about some of this healing after having, as someone who, and understanding that the people who are participating in this are all people who have had some involvement in abortion in their past. What are some of the specific things that they go through that help to bring about that healing, some of the specific things that are done?
Sure. It's a pretty amazing experience in that we begin on Friday evening and we go all the way through Sunday afternoon. And it's really, truly a resurrection experience where we start with Good Friday. And then by Sunday, you see this amazing transformation. And it's based on scripture. And we do these exercises throughout the weekend, starting with just, figuring out, why are you here? What is it that made you feel like you needed help and healing? And so you're going through this Good Friday experience. You're going into the scriptures and you're doing scriptures like, the woman at the well and stuff like that. And you're meeting and you're encountering Jesus in these exercises. And then there's usually like a ritual that goes along with it, something tangible and physical that you do to really put yourself in that place. It's very Ignatian in that style of, putting yourself in the place of the scripture and really experiencing it so that you can really receive the love of Christ and the healing of Christ through each of these exercises throughout the weekend. And then, of course, there's a portion of the weekend where you're just sharing your story. You're just saying, how you got here. What was your life like before? What happened? How did you end up in this abortion experience or experiences? Or if you were an employee, we've had people who worked for abortion providers and needed healing from that. Yeah, we've had grandparents. We've had, I'll never forget, we had one woman who did not have the abortion herself, but she experienced it with a roommate. A roommate had taken the RU46. And as you probably know, that is basically where you have to suffer that abortion experience by yourself at home. And, you know, this gal had to sit there and watch her roommate go through this in her own home, which is a whole nother level of trauma, taking it out of the doctor's office and into your own home. So all kinds of people come to us for that kind of healing. And so you get to share your story, how you got there, and then, you know, what is it you're here for? What are you seeking? You know, some people it's anger, some people it's self-loathing, some people it's anger at God, you know, it's relationship issues. It's kind of different for everybody. Some people just are suicidal. I mean, some people have been through therapy and they have not been able to get to the core of it. And others have never spoken a word. I mean, I remember a woman who was in her 90s and had it in her 20s and long before it was legal, and never spoke a word.
Oh, wow.
70 years, comes to our weekend and can share that with people in a safe environment.
Now, one of the things you mentioned early on was about confidentiality. And I know within the context of our retreats, we always have to have at least some kind of professional. Our board member and dear friend Patty Lametti is a clinical social worker. What is sort of the role of those kinds of professionals within the context of a Rachel's Vineyard retreat, and how do they sort of help facilitate not only genuine healing, but maybe just an extra level of professionalism, at least to the proceedings? That this isn't just, you know, quackery that we're doing here, that there's actually some oversight from people who know what they're doing.
Absolutely. Two main components on our weekend, which is essential, is to have a trained therapist, whether they be a social worker or a psychologist, psychiatrist, somebody who has been trained to work through some of these issues, because some are very delicate. Some people are very much depressed. And I mean, you just have to watch out for all these things. And we as lay people are not trained to do that. So we have Patty on our team. And then we also have a priest. So we happen to have what we consider a Catholic team, though we have non-Catholic members. So for us, the sacramental healing is crucial. And so we have a priest on our weekends. Now, there are non-denominational teams out there, and they'll have a pastor of some sort on the weekends, because we know psychologically that we need to be integrated people, right? We need to be psychologically, emotionally, spiritually healed all at the same time. We can't compartmentalize this. And that's why so many people come to us after being in therapy all these years, but they never dealt with the spiritual aspect, or people who've only been to confession, but they've never been to a therapist. So it's that perfect integration. And so Patty, you know, that therapeutic side of it, they walk these people through these exercises, and she can just hone in on, does she see somebody doing something that needs addressing, you know, that kind of thing. So she has that professional skill to identify that and help that person work through it. And obviously, not everything's going to wrap up in a weekend, but a lot of it is just doors opening. And then afterwards, we get them the follow-up help that they need, if they need one-on-one counseling or medication, you know, whatever the kind of thing, we head them in the right direction to professionals who can help them.
Great. So what would you say, as we're getting, you know, last 5 minutes or so here, what would you say to someone who's watching this, who has maybe had an abortion in their past? And what would you say to someone, because we might have someone watching this right now, what would you say to someone who maybe has had an abortion in their past? They're not sure about, you know, is this something I want to do? What would be maybe your elevator pitch to someone who might be in this very situation?
Sure. I think be not afraid. You know, that this is the safest place you'll ever come to try to find that healing that you seek so deep in your soul. You're going to be surrounded by love and sympathy. And most of the team is post-abortion up that phone and calling my hotline. The second hardest part is getting out of the car when you get up to the retreat house. But once that happens, I mean, I was just reading through some letters over the last almost 20 years of our retreats, and I was just blown away by the responses that we get from people who've been through the retreats. So just be not afraid.
Now, for those watching, now Jennifer moved with her family to Lincoln, Nebraska several years ago, but Jennifer has been so dedicated to the work of Rachel's Vineyard that her phone is still, so she's still the conduit for us to get that phone right there. It's still the conduit for people who want to participate in Rachel's Vineyard, can call confidentially to set up participating in appointments. So Jennifer, do you have that phone number just to share with people? I know you do, since
I do. It's toll free, 877-629-6626.
877-629-6266.
6626.
6626. Okay, wonderful.
Yes, and there's also a Spanish team as well. So just so you know that they have a separate line. I don't have that one memorized, but it is on your website. And so there is a Spanish. So we usually have one retreat in Spanish, 2 in English per year. So
Wonderful. Yeah, we'll have all those numbers ready as we go out from this package. So anyway, thank you so much, Jennifer, for joining us, and thank you so much for your work on behalf of this cause.
We're so pleased and so proud of the great work that we do through our Rachel's Vineyard ministry, and we're so grateful to Jennifer Butcher for her continuing ongoing support of the ministry. We at Right to Life of Central California, as Jennifer said, we host Rachel's Vineyard retreats at the Three Rivers Retreat Center, which is run by the Roman Catholic Diocese of Fresno. We have 2 English retreats and 1 Spanish retreat per year. And we so deeply appreciate the work of Patty Lametti and all of those who help facilitate our Rachel's Vineyard retreats. If you want to learn more, do visit our website, rtlcc.org. We have the information about Rachel's retreat, about Rachel's Vineyard, right there on the website. As we close out the show, I want to share a cool story about adoption. Adoption is such an important part of the pro-life message. And one of the troubling things we've seen in recent years is that while the overall abortion rate is down, the number of women choosing to place their child for an adoption is actually very, very low. And certain adoption agencies and ministries in different parts of the country have actually gone out of business, which is a very unfortunate thing, because we think there's a lot of ignorance about the adoption process and how the adoption process works today. To share with us an inspiring story about how adoption has enriched her life, as well as to dispel some of those misconceptions, I interviewed a great friend of Right to Life of Central California, Marianne Angelillo. She's going to share her and her family's experience with adoption, as well as sort of explain the basics of how adoption works in the modern era, as opposed to how it worked 50 years ago. We hope you'll enjoy my sit down with Marianne Angelillo. Okay, welcome everyone. As part of our Stories for Life educational event, along with the other things we wanted to highlight, like our Sidewalk Advocacy Ministry, our post-abortive healing ministries, we also wanted to talk with you all about adoption, and adoption as a wonderful, loving option, and some of the stories of people in our community who have chosen adoption. So with me to talk about this is longtime friend of Right to Life, supporter of Right to Life, and by long time I mean since you were a little girl, going to events with your Aunt Dottie and with your mom and dad, Janet Cameron and Mark Cameron, our very good friend, former board member, longtime supporter and dear friend, Marianne Angelillo. Welcome, Marianne.
Hi, everybody.
So,
thank you.
Well, so Marianne, I want you to sort of give us sort of the basics of how you and your husband Neil helped build your family through adoption, and maybe a little bit of the impact it's had on you guys.
Awesome. I would love to speak about adoption, because when you watch TV, what do you hear? The negative story. Watch Lifetime TV.
Right.
It's going to be like, oh, the killer was an adoptee. It's so
Sure.
silly. It is so negatively portrayed in the media and a lot of drama. But I guess that's what makes a good Lifetime movie or something.
Well, and even I think even with the way that people talk about foster
parenting and stuff like that, especially like
Yeah,
people
there's like a negative
well, and
undertone
people,
or
and
something.
even some pro-choice people will talk about foster care like, well, the child will wind up in foster care, so we should choose abortion. And it's like, oh,
Yeah, wait
wow,
a minute.
like,
Wait,
like
yeah.
what a horrible dismissive thing for someone
Yeah.
who was adopted themselves or who was in foster care.
Right.
Anyway, well, tell us about your
Anyway,
family, about
our
your
experience
two
has
boys.
not been such. We were a couple that struggled with infertility issues of unknown cause for 7 years and decided we had a lot of love to give and we wanted to have a family. So this was a very positive experience and way to build a family. There is loss, there's the loss of, everybody experiences some kind of loss in the adoption triad, which is what
Sure.
you call it. The adoptive parent or parents, the birth parents, the child, right? Everybody has loss in there. You have
Sure.
to acknowledge that loss. But there's so many benefits for everyone. And I think that's been our experience, especially with openness in adoption, which is not something that very many people are familiar with. What does that actually mean?
Right. So explain that, because I think a lot of people, when they think of adoption, they only think of it as far as closed adoptions, which
Right.
but as
And
far
secretive.
yeah, and
yeah.
oh, I'm giving away my baby, I'll never be able to see my
Yeah,
baby again,
right,
and because you do see fewer and fewer young women who have
Who
children
choose-
at a young age who are
Yeah.
instead choosing to raise their children and aren't choosing adoption so much. So
Right.
maybe a good thing from this is to explain the difference between open and closed adoption,
Sure,
and that,
sure.
that closed
Right.
preconception isn't the
Right.
normative way.
So I think it goes back to the 50s where getting pregnant outside of marriage was like incredibly looked down upon and shameful and hidden. Young women would be sent away to, a school, which
Yeah,
was
yeah.
really like she would
Yeah.
go away and
Yeah.
have her baby and nobody would know.
It was a lot more social
A
stigma.
lot
than
of social stigma, a lot
Yeah.
of secretiveness. Now, as single parenting and births out of wedlock have risen
Yeah.
in acceptance, I think there's less stigma behind that. But what I think I want most to get across is that adoption is an incredibly loving choice. It's not a rejection. It's not a, I don't love you, baby, therefore I'm giving you away. Because I'm not saying that women who choose abortion are saying, I don't love you, baby, but it's very unselfish to
Right.
go through an entire 9-month pregnancy and make an adoption plan for your child, which is what openness is. So openness is a spectrum.
Okay.
It is, I know I'm adopted. I know my birth parents' names, or, my parents know, my adoptive parents know my birth parents' names, to openness where we are. Our experience is my eldest child visits regularly with his birth family.
Okay.
He's now 22. We have always had a very open relationship with them. His birth grandparents were a third set of grandparents for
Oh wow.
both of our children. My youngest son, we know both his birth mother and his birth father. We're less close to his extended birth family, but we're very close to his birth mom and birth dad.
Right.
With my older son, we're close to the whole family.
Sure. So it's not a situation of, and that's so good for you to have you describe that relationship, even with extended family, because I think still the conception for most people is that kind of 1950s closed adoption, like
Fear. It's
like,
kind of fear,
like
right?
you have your baby, someone takes your baby away, and
Yeah.
you'll never see your baby
Yeah.
ever again.
Which
and
would,
that's just
would be
not
terrifying, right?
Right. And
Because
and,
you love your baby and you want to
Exactly.
know what happens to your baby and
Yeah.
you want to know, hey, like his or her life turned out really good, or
Right. Well, and it's actually one of the various tragic things about Norma McCorvey, the woman who
Yeah.
was Jane Roe in
Right.
Roe v. Wade. The baby that she was pregnant with, over whom the Roe v. Wade lawsuit was started, she actually never aborted the baby, even though she was fighting for the right to abort. She actually gave that child up for an adoption, and it was a closed adoption. So that woman, I believe it was a woman, a girl, no one knows who she is or where she is, who that baby is. And it's kind of a sad thing because, again, and in part, that was sort of almost this culture that Roe sprang out of, in a way. Like that there was so much
Shame
so much negativity,
fear,
so much shame, and not to say that, I wish more people had more of a sense of what the reality of open adoption is.
Oh yeah.
Because I think it would strike such a better balance.
And it's so beautiful, honestly. Like it's just like, you have cousins, you have aunts, uncles. It's really just more people to love the child.
Yeah.
Adoption's about love.
Right.
It's not about abandonment.
Right.
It's not about rejection. It's about love. And that is the number one thing for the family to know. I mean, you got to think about it. Like, what a loving, unselfish choice that is.
Tell me a little bit about the sort of, I guess, the mechanisms of how you guys went through adoption.
Oh, okay.
So you went through, did you go through an agency?
We did.
How did that get facilitated?
So we went through an incredibly reputable adoption agency called Infant of Prague Adoption Services. It is, since then, after 50 years, I think they finally
Closed their doors.
Closed their doors and gave all their case files to another agency. It was a great experience because not only do they work with adoptive parents, sometimes it's just the mother, sometimes it's the adoptive mother and the father. They work with the birth parents, birth mother, birth father, grandparents if they need counseling or education about it. There's an entire process that the young women who were considering making an adoption plan were put through, which is like, here's what it would be like to parent your baby, to decide to parent. Here's what it would be like to make an adoption plan. And just all the different scenarios so that they could educate themselves on this really important decision they were making.
Right.
So when the young women came, or sometimes older women, like
sure.
older, 30s,
whoever, yeah.
not as old as myself,
Yeah,
but
sure.
anyway, were considering that it was a really informed decision,
Right.
and really one made with pretty much a lot of surety.
Yeah.
There weren't a lot of people who went through that process who changed their minds.
Right.
Said, oh my gosh, I made this huge mistake.
Right. Well, and that's one of the things about it that seems, it's almost the evidence of what a good thing it is that so many accounts we get from people who've had the experience of abortion is that I have to make this choice, I have to make this choice, I have to make this choice, and not stopping to think and not stopping to talk things through. And maybe you get a pamphlet or a vague word from the Planned Parenthood people about adoption, but the notion of stop, think this through, take a little time, make a plan, and to make a plan in a way that lets you know that this is something you can do.
And something you can live with.
Right.
And not gonna
Right.
regret. And I certainly, is there loss involved? Yes.
Sure.
Yes. Do birth moms and dads cry and say, I wish, or what if? Yeah. We have a lot of things like that in life, but it's very, I think it always comes around to, I made the best decision that I could for my child at the time.
Right.
And you
Well,
can't wait till the child's 10 to say, oh, I want to be a parent now. A baby needs a mother or a father
right now.
when it's born. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and it's loss, but it's loss with an end result of hope and a future, and as opposed to loss where which, and it's not to say that the people who go through abortion can't experience forgiveness and redemption.
Absolutely, yeah.
But there is obviously a certain finality to it.
Right.
And just to emphasize to people that this is such a good option and that there are very good people out there. So the entity that we work with a lot now is Bethany Christian Services, who have wonderful people who help with counseling, with adoption planning, open adoption, all of the stuff that sort of inheriting some of that work and that great legacy of Infant of Prague. So it's such an important thing. And as we sort of close, I just wanted to ask if you had any thoughts, any last thoughts about adoption, and any last thoughts about how it's enriched your lives. And, yeah.
Well, of course, it's been like the greatest thing, right,
Yeah.
in my life. I got to be a mom, which is awesome, and I love my boys, and my husband loves being a dad. Our boys are 22 and 18 now. Well, one's almost 22. 21 and,
21
11,
and
12.
change. There you go.
I was just thinking to close that what are the questions people ask me the most? Like,
Yeah.
do you love an adopted child as much as you would your own child? Well, I'll tell you what, my children are my own, and we are each other's. It's not, there is no difference. There really isn't.
Right.
And it's that, and then people say, well, how can you handle when, this openness, like if their birth mom comes over, the relationship, I love these young women and
Right.
the one young man that I know, they're like, almost like the relationship to me is almost like your favorite sister or your favorite brother or your, an auntie or an uncle. There's no confusion. There's not confusion. Like the kids know I'm their mom and this is their birth mom, and it's very natural is all I can say. And I don't think you can know it until you're in it, but it's not as scary as you think it would be.
Well, I think a lot of people approach it with, it's the unknown, and you approach the unknown with fear.
Yeah. With fear.
And to sort of see that an example like you and your family, that no, this actually does work, and it actually works in very beautiful ways sometimes.
I have not ever known it not to work either.
Right.
I personally haven't known any other adoptive families that have had like major problems. You know? Because guess what? All teenagers are a little on the bratty side, right?
Yeah.
And they're gonna throw anything they can at you.
Sure.
You're not my mom. You're not my dad. Well, you know what? Yeah, I am. Don't even, you know what I mean? Not that my perfect children have ever said anything like that to me. You know what I mean? Like your kid's gonna throw at you when they want to rebel anything that they have in their arsenal.
That is fair.
So
that is fair.
you just don't let it.
All right. Well, Marianne, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate your insight into that and explaining that difference, especially that difference between open and closed adoption, which I think is so important for people to understand. So anyway, thank you so much for joining us.
Welcome. Thanks for having me.
Our thanks to Marianne for sharing that wonderful testimony about her family's experience with adoption. Well, folks, that's going to conclude it for our presentation this evening. We thank you so much for watching. One little housekeeping thing in my outro after our Rachel's Vineyard segment, I forgot to give the dates when our upcoming Rachel's Vineyard retreats are going to happen. Our upcoming Rachel's Vineyards retreats are going to happen this upcoming June 18th and 20th in Spanish, July 9th through 11th in English, and October 29th and 31st through the 31st in English. If you want to participate in any of these retreats, we encourage you to contact our confidential hotline where you can talk with someone, learn more about resources, and maybe get yourself scheduled to go on one of these retreats. The English language number to call is 1-877-629-6626, and the Spanish language number to call is 1-877-686-8537. Should have had that after the Rachel's Vineyard segment, but stuff happens. It's live TV. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching this presentation. If you want to support the continuing work of Right to Life of Central California, if anything you saw maybe moves you to consider, hey, maybe I should help out this organization, maybe I should give them a financial contribution, we'd encourage you to go to our website, rtlcc.org. There's a big red donate button right there at the top, and there's also our 300 Club. The 300 Club is a very nice way for ordinary folks to give and support the work of Right to Life. There are a lot of us who are signed up for a lot of different streaming services to watch bad television shows that are sapping 10 or 15 bucks a month from our pocketbooks. For 25 bucks a month, if every one of our supporters in the Valley were to give us $25 a month, which amounts to $300 a year, we'd basically never even need to have a fundraiser at Right to Life. And the 300 Club is basically a way for you to be a part of the team. We send all of our 300 Club members a little gift as thanking them for their support. We send them our newsletter. It's a wonderful way to participate in the life of the organization. And there's a little button right there at the top of our website to sign up for the 300 Club if you feel so inclined. Thank you all so much. I hope you learned something, hope you're inspired, and feel free to share this video with your friends and spread the word about the good work we're doing at Right to Life of Central California. For Right to Life, I'm John Girardi. Thank you so much. God bless.